Perfect. So now we're going to move on to the next presentation. Allow me to introduce Yoti and Virgin Atlantic. From Yoti, we have Gavin Watts, Client Transformation and Delivery Director. And Virgin Atlantic, we have Linda Porter, Senior Manager, Health. Please take it away. Thanks.
Thanks, Jordan. Can everybody hear me okay now?
Oh, yeah.
And thanks for the opportunity of presenting today, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you might be. As Jordan said, I'm Gav Watts. I look after the aviation and travel sector here at Yoti, and I'm delighted to be talking to you today with Linda from Virgin.
Oh, thanks, Gav, and good morning, afternoon, and very late evening, actually, for some of you. It's absolutely brilliant to have us here. So thank you from myself and Virgin Atlantic also. It's our first time here with Plug and Play, so it's great to be here. So it's a real privilege to be here to discuss our recent journey with Yoti in respect to our COVID testing programmes. So I'll just hand over to Gav. Thanks very much.
Slide, please. So we're quickly going to take you through some high sector challenges before Linda gives a perspective from Virgin. We'll then discuss the Virgin testing program that's been implemented before discussing the credentials in a little bit more detail, and then some final thoughts on interoperability and global alignment. Slide, please. So if we look at this from a really high level, the ultimate challenge is to effectively restart travel across international borders whilst containing the virus. And this challenge varies depending on the country we consider and the state they are at with their response to the pandemic. But if we look at that from a more micro level, we need to enable self-service and contactless processes that we were accustomed to before March 20. We need to ensure that we collect the necessary information before passengers arrive at airports, which facilitates the previous challenge. And we need to do this in the context where we're keeping staff safe and there's resilience in the operation. I'll now hand to Linda to dive into some more detail from their perspective.
Thanks very much. So as an international long-haul airline, we've experienced all the challenges that Gavin's just described for the sector, and actually as a lot of you have described. However, let me discuss three main areas of focus across both our passenger flying programme and also now across our very successful cargo operations. So this pandemic has truly shaken the world, and our overarching concern at Virgin is rebuilding trust. In regard to our passengers, we've ensured we've moved at pace so our loyal and valued customers can trust that they've the right information prior to travel so that they can take the right COVID test at the right time and know where to get these tests. Trust that they will not be denied entry to the country they're travelling to and enjoy the time there safe from any additional administration worries. And they also need to trust we have made their whole journey super safe and have appropriate measures in place end to end to protect their health. They also need to trust we will look after them if anything goes wrong, and our care team are there every step of the way. And that's really important to us. So these elements we thankfully have direct control over, and I'm sure like all of our fellow airlines here, we have a dedicated steering team with board, customer journey, crew experience and operations in attendance weekly to ensure we're ahead of the curve and looking after our customers in the absolute right way. In addition to these challenges, there's the economic angle. Testing is an added expense, and for some trips, multiple testing is required. So this needs to be affordable and accessible to all. In regard to our people, these are referred to by our CEO as our secret sauce. They need to trust that their airline is taking all precautions to ensure their health, safety and security is a priority. This is something we really pride ourselves on and have worked tirelessly to ensure we're doing the best job we can to look after our teams on the ground and also in the air. This includes managing the very real risk of our crews being quarantined en route due to testing COVID positive on arrival. And last year we had several cases of this happening. So being detained overseas in quarantine facilities and hospitals away from their families and loved ones is something we absolutely want to prevent. Also, if our people don't trust we have their health and well-being as a priority, they will not feel safe to come to work, placing additional pressure on our operation. And in regards to our operation, complexities around the varying and ever-changing entry requirements on top of multiple procedures that passengers and crew must follow puts enormous pressure on a commercial flying programme. Testing and crew screening needs to allow minimal disruption to crew duty hours and also to timely aircraft departures. Next slide, please. So at Virgin, we decided very early on to invest in our COVID testing programme to initially allow us to test all of our crew departing to destinations where there was PCR testing on arrival. And we chose to uniquely set up this in-house at Heathrow Airport. We needed a fully self-managed point of care system with a high level of sensitivity, which was fast and scalable. We were aware of the limitations of PCR, so we chose a multifaceted approach using LAMP and rapid antigen tests. So we're using different tests for different needs. We set up our own lab with bioscience graduates and trained up our own testing team using cabin crew who had previously been health service volunteers, crew testing crew. This has worked really well as they can truly empathise, and I'm extremely proud of what the team has achieved over a really short period of time. We then expanded to all our ground teams. So we've worked collaboratively with Yoti as our chosen testing technology partner, providing the necessary tools to allow a fully operationalised programme, and they've truly understood the operational challenges that we have as a commercial airline, which has been great. A multifaceted approach affords us the ability to tailor the programme according to our specific needs and to evolve with the changing requirements and advance in medical and testing science. And to date, since we stood up the testing centre in late September last year, we've conducted over 6,500 crew pre-departure tests alone, with a positive capture rate of just under 1%. To contextualise this, we've prevented over 60 crew being quarantined overseas and departed all of our crew feeling safe and secure. Every crew member is tested before every flight, and now every employee is tested every week. Over to you, Gav.
Thanks. So the technology that underpins this process consists of two elements. The first for the business is a web-based health testing platform. And that platform, in essence, manages the end-to-end process for any of the test type that Linda has spoken to. Initially, it will take care of the linking of the individual to a unique test. It then manages that test through the process, and then finally provides the digital issuance of the results, either to a wallet or to an email, depending on what the employee has chosen. On top of that, it takes care of all the reporting needs, whether that's mandatory reporting to organisations like Public Health England, and also for management information and business intelligence. The second element is the secure digital identity wallet, Yoti, the identity wallet that is anchored to your digital ID. The test results issued into that wallet are unique to that, a link to that individual's unique biometric. They then have the ability to either share that by servicing the card, or indeed by sharing it electronically, which I'll talk more about later. Next slide, please.
So moving on to a quick overview of our operational crew testing programme. So we currently use LAMP tests for our crew flying to China, Hong Kong, India and Barbados. As opposed to lengthy PCR testing, in-house LAMP affords us less disruption to our crew and their duty times. It also allows us to test very near to flight departure, with a result in as little as 30 minutes. These results are issued directly to the crew's personal device, as Gavin has just mentioned, and also to the testing management team, reducing administrative burden and flight departure delays.
So to set this process up really takes little effort and, importantly, very little capital expenditure. The key elements are the testing platform I've alluded to, which runs on a standard laptop or similar device. A PCR machine that's indicated there in the picture, in this instance, is the MyGo, that works with the test that Virgin are using. And then the individual's personal device to receive either the credential in their wallet or via the email. But we're going to run through this video now to bring that to life. So if you can run that, please. So here you'll see one of the pilots reporting for duty. The first action they're going to take is using their Yoti app to link themselves to that unique test, which you can see the lady doing now. And during that process, she's sharing the information that Virgin require. She's then going to have her sample taken. So in this instance, it's a deep throat swab. And then when that's complete, the bag will be linked and sent through to the technician. At this stage, the technician is now linking that bag to a virtual well, which represents the PCR machine they're using, with 32 tests available. The test will then be processed and placed into the machine and run for a 30-minute cycle. The results will then be spat out in a CSV format. They're uploaded to the portal, and then they're simultaneously sent both to the Virgin management and to the individual. So the pilot can continue with pre-flight duties as normal, and by the time she's boarded the aircraft, as you'll see shortly, she's received the result on her phone with effectively peace of mind that she's negative and can continue as normal. Slide, please. So diving into credentials in a little bit more detail, and whilst I don't want this to be a deep dive on technicals, at a very, very high level, a digital or verified credential is a packet of information that the issuer is grouped together in accordance with a schema and then issued to somebody's digital wallet with a signature through a private key. The individual can then choose to surface that in a wallet, as you can see on the middle screen. So the top one shows a high-level view of the credential that you saw the pilot receive. The second screen shows more detail expanded on that. That credential can then also be serviced as a QR code, which you can see on the left-hand side, which a relying party can scan using a public key to check that it's been signed properly by the issuer and therefore trust the information within it. But that aside, what does this actually mean to a passenger? And really, they will see this as a digital receipt that they can store in an app on their phone that they need to show at the airport to go on holiday. It's that simple. So how does one get one? There's two really ways to do this in my mind. The first we've demonstrated is push to your phone at the point at which you've completed the transaction. And the second, which I'll show you shortly, is when you wish to receive that credential at a later date. So if you can run the next video, please. So in this instance, Melissa has had a vaccination and they've had a paper card. They've initially scanned that paper card into the app as a self-declared credential, but at a later date, they now want to go and check that against source. So they'll view the credential, they'll hit the verify button, and through an API back to the source database, we can verify that and then surface that as a signed verified credential in the app. Next is back one slide. Next is how do we ensure that this belongs to the individual? This is really important, and the most secure way to do this is to bind that to their identity, which is what we're demonstrating here. The biometric link to the identity means that nobody else can use it. It can't be used fraudulently or in an adverse manner. And finally, on this slide, how does it benefit them? Now, there are lots of use cases for this, both domestically and internationally. Domestically will be dependent on government policy, but you can see lots of use cases for hospitality and sporting events. Slide, please. But really today, we want to look at how we can leverage these into the transport world. They can absolutely facilitate return to online and self-service check-ins that I talked about earlier. And they can absolutely build trust across the network, simplify processes, and enable passengers back to flying. But really, how do we do this? And in my view, it's a phased approach. In the short term, we can combine the COVID-19 information, whether that's a test result or a vaccine record, with API information and declarations that passengers are already accustomed to providing. Through simple SDK integrations into platforms, this information can be shared through these types of wallets. That takes care of pre-flight activity. When we look at the destinations, initially, these are easily showable and surfaced in apps, as I've demonstrated. And it's then an easy step to move to presenting that as a QR code to be verified. But in this situation here, we must bear in mind the technology maturity of countries when we think about how we implement this technology. Not all will have the infrastructure to do that. When we look to the future, it's a simple addition of biometrics. Adding a biometric to that packet of information creates a single token that I've spoken on previously and lots of you will be familiar with. That then facilitates the use of biometrics, a key touch point, to authenticate yourself and link yourself to your packet of information. And that applies to both pre-departure routines as well as arrival routines through immigration halls. Slide, please. And finally, I want to finish up with interoperability. Whatever solution we are considering implementing, we've got to start with the passenger. If we provide as frictionless as possible a process that's simplistic, it will encourage people back to the air. There are a number of initiatives in flight, be that the Common Project, IATA, who we'll hear from, KTTI, and people who have already spoken today. But what is key is that we ensure that there are defined global standards for the health credentials, and who has responsibility for this? Is that the World Health Organization? Equally, we need to ensure that frameworks are using open standards, and key, that they are interoperable. So why do I say this? We need to give the passenger a choice. It is their data, and it's down to them how they control and share that. We need to ensure that whatever solution they use is applicable across every carrier they choose to fly with and any destination they choose to go to. If a passenger is required to conform to a different process and download a different app for each journey, it creates friction, it presents barriers, and it will prevent us from achieving the primary objective of getting people back in the air. Slide, please. So on behalf of Linda and I, thank you very much for listening, and we will both do our best to address any questions you might have in the chat.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Gavin. I love the approach and everything you've done together thus far, and the fact that you're willing to work with others. That's amazing. So thank you so much for your presentation. I know there's several questions, so if you have time, please respond to them.